I'd like to call to order the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education meeting for March 29th, 2013 at 6:30. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you and welcome everybody to our meeting this evening. Next up, we have B, additions, deletions. I don't have any this evening. Moving on to C, recognition presentations. Mr. Roberts. Oh yeah, thank you. Yes, also Mr. Sobal is excused for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bednard. February was CTE month, and each year across the county, students are recognized. And we have a presentation this evening to recognize the students from Chippewa Valley Schools that were honored through the county program. And we should have with us this evening Ms. Claire Bryson, our director of CTE. So she's going to start this and kind of give us some background information. And then we have a video to show, which kind of shows our students and community partners. So I see Claire there on our Zoom link. So Claire, I think you can hear me. So I'm gonna turn it over to you. Ms. Claire Bryson, our director.
And hopefully you can all hear me as well. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. So we're going to explain that for 31 years now, the Macomb County Career Technical Education Administrators have been every district, the 21 districts of Macomb County and Macomb Community College, select 2 outstanding CTE students and 1 industry partner to honor every year. And usually we do this at a wonderful in-person event at the ISD, but of course with COVID that didn't take place this year.
Claire,
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is Mr. Bednard. We just got a technical difficulty here. Hold on one second. We'll get this clear up and have you just start again because we have 2 voices going at once. So
I'm sorry.
Okay. We want to hear your presentation for sure.
Okay.
Stand by 1 second.
Testing. Do you think this is good? Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Bednard.
Okay, Claire, please start over again now. We think we have that corrected.
Okay. And testing, are you hearing me okay now?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So anyway, thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your meeting this evening. So we just wanted to share with you briefly our students who were recipients of the Macomb County Career Technical Education Administrators Association, it's a mouthful, award. And we've been doing this for 31 years now. Each of the 21 school districts in Macomb County and Macomb Community College select 2 students to honor and 1 industry partner. And we didn't have the in-person event for obvious reasons this year. Everything was done virtually, but that makes tonight all the more special for to share with you this honor. So we have a little video clip we're going to show you, and then I'll come back to you after that.
Hi, my name is Russell Zampik, culinary arts instructor for Chippewa Valley Schools. Our 2021 outstanding CT senior is Nate Chalmers. Nate has been a culinary arts student both his junior and senior years and has shined as a talented culinarian. Some of his accomplishments including winning a bronze medal for his classic knife cuts and fabricating a whole chicken in the American Culinary Federation Culinary Arts Salon competition. He is also earning his ServSafe Managers and Allergen certifications.
When Nathan first came in here, he said, you know what, I'd love to cook with you guys. You know, he was a friend of a friend, and his friend had nothing but great things to say about him. And man, was he right. Nathan is a great guy. I see him being a great chef.
Often, I only need to show Nate how to do something once. He pays close attention, and if he doesn't fully understand, he asks great questions. He is dependable, always on time, professionally dressed, and hardworking. Nate is further developing his culinary skills through work-based learning as an intern at Testa Bar restaurant, studying under chefs Mike and Gabby Baldwin. Nate's confidence and leadership qualities have blossomed this year, and he demonstrates that by helping to guide my younger students, even virtually, by sharing his experiences in the restaurant. Nate's passion for culinary arts is inspiring other students. After graduation, Nate will be attending the Culinary Institute of Michigan. Congratulations, Nate. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Chad Campo, woodworking and cabinet making instructor, to tell you about our other outstanding CTE student.
Dylan Guptill is an outstanding CTE student because he excels in all the skills needed to be excellent, and he has a great work ethic. His ambitious capstone project is a cylindrical desk made with Macassar ebony veneer with a solid surface top. The project involves using CAD, CNC equipment, a variety of hand and power tools, and skillfully working with exotic veneer and bendable materials.
This here is one of the legs to my desk. I made it using bendable plywood wrapped around regular plywood that we cut into circles using the CNC. Then I'm going to make my own drawer pulling system using the plasma CNC. I'm going to cut it out and design it myself.
Dylan is active in mites, junior hockey, playing for Victory Honda, and serves on the Student Athletic Advisory Committee at Chippewa Valley High School. Dylan has repeatedly demonstrated that he is a person of exceptional character.
It took many layers of epoxy to turn this wood into a marble-like finish. They'll have to add a glossy finish to it. I'm hoping that this is going to take me to Las Vegas for the AWFS finals. My plan is to get an apprenticeship at Vogue Furniture, one of the best woodworking companies in the United States.
He has found a fulfilling career path and wrote a thank you note expressing his gratitude. In Dylan's own words, "You have seen something in me and believe in me enough to take on a project that is literally the coolest thing I've ever done. Thank you for helping me get to where I need to be." That is the best feedback any teacher could receive. Dylan hopes to apprentice as a furniture builder at Vogue Furniture in Royal Oak. Congratulations, Dylan. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Hart, our automotive technology instructor.
Chippewa Valley Schools would like to honor Mr. Greg Harnden, Service Manager at Russ Milne Ford, as our outstanding CTE business partner. Mr. Harnden and Russ Milne Ford sponsor Chippewa Valley Schools in the Ford Automotive Career Exploration Program, or ACE. This means that our students in our program learn using Ford's web-based training. These are the same courses taken by dealership technicians, and our students earn Ford Motor Service certifications that give them a head start to become a service technician. Mr. Harnden has a long track record of hiring and mentoring young technicians through the process of achieving successful careers. He has also developed an in-house apprenticeship program that allows new technicians the opportunity to learn from master technicians. Our partnership with Russ Milne Ford and Mr. Harnden is an important reason why Chippewa Valley Schools Automotive Technology Program is so relevant and effective. We are pleased to honor them and grateful for their support.
Nice.
Thank you. So I just wanted to follow up with a couple comments. First of all, the young woman that you saw in the last clip at Russ Milne Ford is Amanda Hoffman. She's an alumnus of Chippewa Valley High School. Amanda was a McT Award recipient last year, and she is one of these students, one of many that Russ Milne Ford has taken under their wing, but she is one of the few that got selected to continue in the, excuse me, the Ford asset program, which is the post-secondary apprenticeship program. So you need a dealership to sponsor you, and then you go to Henry Ford College, and then it's a work study program, apprenticeship. So she's having her tuition paid for. She's learning on the job. She's getting a paid wage while she does this. And of course, she has a great career waiting for her at the end of this. So I just wanted to mention that. Greg, unfortunately, couldn't be with us tonight. As we have all experienced too. Sometimes there's short staff due to COVID or quarantine issues. So he's filling in and real busy this week. And Dylan, our woodworking student, also couldn't be here tonight, but Dylan is a phenomenal student, and there's a couple things I'd like to share with you about him that he and his parents have given me permission to share. And what wasn't mentioned in the film is that Dylan is challenged with dyslexia and ADHD. And it is in woodworking where he really flourished. And that thank you letter that he wrote to his teacher was a little longer than that, but it really explained what a difference this program made in his life and helped him find his career path. And he wants other people to know this, to know that these kinds of challenges don't inhibit you from being successful. And I applaud Dylan's efforts for doing that. And when he referred to the AWFS finals in Las Vegas, that's a big international North American competition. They choose 15 projects from all of North America every other year when they host this. Only 15 at the high school level. And we have a very good track record of getting a project in that competition. So that is his aspiration. The projects are a little bit behind schedule, as is understandable given the fact that, the in-home learning was the whole first semester, but he's working hard to try and meet that deadline. And we are hoping that he will have his wish and be able to enter it into the national competition. And then we have Nate Chalmers, our culinary student, who is with us tonight, as is his instructor, Russ Zampage. And what the film didn't tell you is that there were 3 possible $500 scholarships available to the students who were selected this year from the county. And Nate was awarded one of those $500 scholarships, which I know he is appreciative of and will come in handy when he continues on in his culinary education. So Nate is here if you would like to ask him anything, or his instructors. Feel free to do so. He is a wonderful young man, and that beautiful pasta dish that we showed in that film, I actually got to sample that. That was absolutely delicious.
Any questions by the board for Nate? Mr. Quino.
Hi, Nate. This is Denise Aquino. How did you start with an interest in culinary arts? How did that path kind of come to you, or did you start, being interested in that?
Always cooking was kind of what I like to do. I always enjoyed cooking, from a young age. I always, had a little paring knife that I would cut up little things, and it was just always something I did.
Interesting. Okay, that's great. Sounds like you're already on your way to being successful, thanks to your teacher and to your own drive, which is always commendable and something that we love to honor in our students. So especially like Chester Bar, that's, hey, that's the big time, eh? In my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So congratulations to you and congratulations on your scholarship as well. I'm sure you will do well. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We do have another student that graduated from Chippewa Valley High School that opened his own restaurant in Detroit. So maybe you'll be the next one. So best of luck next year at the Culinary Institute.
Thank you.
I would like to just make a couple comments and ask a question of Nate. Nate, this is Mr. Roberts. And first of all, I was very, very thrilled to see that when you sliced the potatoes, they were evenly cut. That was when we watched the video today collectively. That's what Mrs. Blaine, our community relations director, pointed out right away, is how those potatoes are evenly cut, which I'm sure helps them cook evenly. But what I really liked was when you kind of took that other end and kind of gouged out that bruise spot, because I really don't like to see that in my potatoes. So I appreciate that. I'm not very good at cooking. My grilled cheese isn't bad, but my wife will allow me to cut those little stringy parts of a green bean off. She gives me that job. But just, can you talk about the first time you ever dismembered a chicken? And what that was like? Because I still have a problem when you have to kind of pull that leg or pull that wing and get the knife in there. Do you remember when you started doing that? Because I think you won some award for that.
Yeah, I was training for a competition last year, somewhere around this time. And I had watched a video a couple times on how to do it, and I got to class, and chef gave me the chicken, and he got me set up, and I went at it, and it was awful. It was horrendous. It just was awful. And then I kept working at it, did it a couple more times, and by the time the competition came around, it was bronze worthy, I guess.
Ron's worthy. Okay. Well, you want to see awful, come to my house and watch me cut a chicken. Are you a senior?
I am.
All right. So I only have till the end of this year to get out to the school to have you show me how to cut up a chicken then, right? That's it.
Anytime.
I'll be there. I want to learn from the master. Mr. Zampic, can you talk about just the skills you teach in your class and what you see, the growth in students and what it means to them to be in your program?
Yeah, I mean, it's the class itself teaches the ins and outs of actually running a restaurant. Each student is involved at each station for about 2 weeks, from soups to salad bar to working on a line to waitressing or waitering, cashier. So they travel throughout the entire restaurant, including dishwasher, and they learn how to hold a knife correctly, to make sure that they are watching out for their safety and sanitation to make sure that we're supplying safe food. But it's very skill orientated, as Nate mentioned just recently, that he started off butchering his chicken and it was a mess. But now this year when he started, he practiced even some more, and he ended up getting a silver medal this year for his efforts, for his knife skills, and for his chicken fabrication. So watching the students go from not knowing how to handle a knife to having the confidence to go into a restaurant and show off their skill is very employable. And it really gives me a great satisfaction to show that these students grow from point A to point B. And some of the funny stories I had as a student was cooking at home, and her mom and her were working, and the student goes, "Mom, you're not holding your knife correctly. You're going to cut your fingers off." So those are the kind of things that really instill me to really love teaching and watching the students grow from their skill level to the skill level that they have when they leave my classes.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add that what Nate is doing is really the best of CTE. So he's getting this instruction at school, but then he's practicing those skills and taking them even further in the workplace setting, work-based learning, as we call it. And whether students recognize it or not, they're developing a whole other skill set that they don't always recognize as skills, but work ethic and all that is contained in that word is something he demonstrates. And I can tell you that research tells us that work ethic is still the number one skill set that employers are looking for across all industry sectors. It's that important, even before sometimes the technical skills. And so that's what CT really excels at, is helping students to develop the whole package of skills that you need to be successful when you leave us. You know, they need to develop academic maturity, having a good grasp of the academic knowledge and how it applies within the content area, the technical skills. But that other piece that we don't talk as much about, is the career maturity, that sense of discovering what you like and how that matches up with opportunities in the workplace. And then if we've done our job, correctly, we have exposed them to many aspects of the industry, which we do within our lab environment, but certainly he gets even more of that when he's working in an actual restaurant. And Nate's just delightful. His employer has nothing but wonderful things to say about how much they like him, how well he works with people as part of a team, how he communicates. So you can see that whether he recognizes it or not, we know that he has successfully demonstrated that he's achieved the skill set, the skill package that we're trying to help students develop, so they are successful at the next step.
Questions or comments by the board? Okay, well, we want to congratulate all our CT high achievers. Nate, congratulations. Mr. Zampic, thanks so much. Mr. Zampic, we mentioned a few of our students. We had Mr. Herndon at Russ Milne. You mentioned the Baldwins and Testabera. What other fine eating establishments might we find Chippewa Valley kids helping out at? If you can name a few off the top of your head, if you know.
Not off the top of my head. I mean, we do have like some of my skills one class are still working at kind of like the fast food level. So there's a lot of different like Tim Hortons, McDonald's and so forth. But I think eventually once they start their internship, their senior year, they will probably find themselves looking at a little bit more of a different scale of restaurant to work with.
Okay, excellent. And Nate, I can think back, oh boy, back when I was probably about 5, 6 years old, a friend of mine went in a farmer's field behind our house and we started a little campfire and we thought it'd be cool to make eggs. That was the first thing we ever made. We did all right. What was the first thing you ever made?
The first thing I really remember was helping my grandpa make pizza at his house with my grandma, and we would make the dough from scratch. We'd make pizza sauce, and we put all the toppings on and bake it in the oven, and that was one of the best memories I have of cooking.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Zampic, for your work with our kids also, and Ms. Bryson. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bednard, I'd just like to make a couple comments
Sure.
about what we've heard tonight. First of all, I want to tell Nate it's really great. You're already beyond McDonald's because your cutting skills are way beyond that restaurant. I pulled into the drive-through one day and it was in the car I was driving, and I wanted an Egg McMuffin, and I asked them. I said, "Could you cut that in half?" And they told me they don't cut anything in half. So you're out of a job at McDonald's with your cutting skills. So being resourceful, I asked for a plastic knife. Solved the problem myself. But I just want to recognize a few people that we've heard from here this evening. First of all, I want to recognize Claire Bryson, who's been our director of CTE for how many years, Claire? How many?
Well, I've been in the district 21 years, and I think I've been the director. I think this is my 16th. if I'm not
16th.
mistaken.
And our program has grown exponentially over that time. The quality of the program. I know Claire, when we have jobs, she seeks out the best. And that's so important in a program it's so important in any program you're running, but Claire managed to do it in CTE, and I know Claire is retiring at the end of this year. So congratulations to you, Claire, and to Russ for all you do in that program. I mean, you're taking some raw talent and you're giving them marketable skills, and that's no small task. So thank you to you and to Chad Campow in our woodworking program. We were unable to meet Dylan this evening, but when you think about the challenges he's overcome to achieve how he's achieved, it's pretty remarkable. A student with dyslexia and attention deficit, and he's winning awards in woodworking is really is quite astounding that he can do that. And it just shows in a public school that we teach all children, and we try to find what their passion is and help them develop it so that they can achieve into the future. And these are just examples of students who I know will achieve great things, and it's because of being exposed and being able to participate in programs like this at the high school level. So, and furthermore, when you look at what was going on there at Russ Milne Ford, one of the things I know that is important in CTE is students in non-traditional roles, and that's recognized by our government as something we should strive for. And you saw in there a student who graduated from our school district, a female, who now is an auto technician, which is a job very much in demand, very well paid, and she's on her way with an auto dealer. So I'm just so proud of everything that's occurring in our CTE program. It starts at the top with Claire, our talented instructors, and students who want to achieve and pursue their passions. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask one question?
Sure, Mr.
Nate,
Kovich.
I have a question. This is Robert Vitovich. What requirements were there to be able to work at Testobaro, and how much time are you putting in there?
So I was recommended by a friend that I met in culinary class, and he said, stop by, just come right in and apply for a job. So I came in, applied for a dishwasher job. I got that easily, no questions asked really. And then slowly, as I kept working, they kept giving me more and more tasks beyond that. Every once in a while it would be go cut this, go prep that, and then it's evolved into come help me on the line, I'm behind a little bit. And that's what I'm doing now. And as far as how much time I'm putting in, quite a lot of time, as much time as they'll give me, because they're teaching me everything that they can, and I'm willing to learn, and they know that.
Well, that's amazing. I thought it was actually a school assigned type of position where you worked with the school to get the position, but you accomplished that all on your own. Congratulations.
Thank you.
He is earning high school credit for it, though, as an official internship. So it is part of his school schedule and part of the learning plan. So there is an actual training plan and an internship coordinator to ensure that the skill progression, is happening in the workplace, which certainly sounds like it is. But when we place students in related work sites, we want to make sure that they're not just going to be doing the same task the whole time they're there, but that there is a logical progression of increasing and exposing them to additional skills on the job. So that's part of the benefit of having a supervised internship as well, though.
That's awesome.
Okay, any other questions or comments by the board? Okay, thank you all again for joining us this evening, and good luck, Nate, in your future endeavors here at Culinary Arts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, anything else for recognition presentations?
That's it this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to D, general consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the general consent agenda.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Mixek, supported by Ms. Aquino. Any questions or comments? Anything to be removed from the general consent agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, I think we have a few retirements this evening. Ms. Pyden.
Whereas Marilyn Pierce and Iman Kier have served the Chippewa Valley School District faithfully and diligently for a period of 36 years as a hall monitor and 8 years as an English learner paraprofessional respectively. Whereas Marilyn Pierce and Iman Kier, through their leadership, have had a positive impact on the staff, students, and the community. Whereas Marilyn Pierce and Iman Kier, conscientious, loyal, hardworking employees, have elected to retire. And whereas Marilyn Pierce and Iman Kier will be missed by all their school colleagues. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District, not only on their behalf, but also that of the Superintendent of Schools and the administration, extend their thanks and appreciation for a job well done, as well as best wishes for the future. Be it further resolved that this resolution, having been adopted by the Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District on the 29th day of March 2021, be made a permanent part of the records of this school district, and a copy sent to Marilyn Pierce and Iman Kier as an expression of our appreciation.
Congratulations, and we wish them the best in their future and retirement. Okay, also, I think we had a new teacher hire, Miss Bridget Mickelson. I believe, are they in attendance this evening or no? I can't.
No.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome Ms. Mickelson into our family, Chippewa Valley Schools family. Okay, moving on to E from the community. Okay, we have 8 speakers who signed up this evening to speak to the board, make comments to the board. As is customary, before we begin, I'd just like to read into the record the community participation rules we have board is set. Number one, and again, it's just we've had a really good conversation with our parents, and we appreciate your comments. So, but just keep in mind that each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Complaints against identifiable school personnel may not be expressed in an open meeting. Such complaints should first be submitted in writing to the board and aired in open or closed session according to the wish of the persons involved. As presiding officer, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action, and waive these rules with the approval of the board when necessary for the protection of privacy or the administration of the board's business. So, okay, so we'll have that 5-minute duration. I'll give you about 4 minutes in. I'll give you a 1-minute warning to wrap it up so that we just don't cut you off. All right. Okay, Ms. Monier White, we have some folks that want to speak to the board this evening.
We actually have 4 callers that are on the call right now. The first one is Maya Dunno.
Okay, excellent. Ms. Deno? Hello, Ms. Deno? Hello, Ms. Deno?
Oh, I think we got her. Hello.
Hi, Ms. Deno?
Hello, good afternoon. I was just having a hard time clicking the 6 thing to unmute. Can you guys hear me?
No problem. We can hear you loud and clear. Please share your comments with the board.
Okay, so at the previous meeting, I discussed how there's a lot of kids who are not wearing their masks correctly, and there's no resolution to that. I don't think any kids are being, again, punished rightfully for that, because it's, again, a health safety issue. I'd like to address that and ask you guys, what are the punishments and the consequences for not wearing your mask correctly in schools?
Okay, yeah, it's not like a question and answer period, Ms. Steno. It's just for you to share your comments for the board, your observations and feelings. So please continue.
Okay, sounds good. So can I also like bring up a conversation I had with one of the board meters or meeting people, but I won't like discuss who the person is. I'll just bring it
Yeah,
up.
we just like to hear what you had to say and not really referring to what another community member said previously at a meeting. So if there's something
Oh
they
no,
said
I'm
that
not
you'd
talking
like
about.
to, if there's something you said, they said you'd like to address as far as to the content, that's fine, as long as it's directed to the board, not about another parent's or another community member's comments. That's all. Go ahead, please
Sounds
continue.
good. I'll just write a formal one then. Okay, I'd like to discuss the inconsistency in like the schedules. I know that we might be going into another like online period, and I just like to mention that like the inconsistency in schedules is like going to affect me and a lot of other kids, and I don't know. I think that's not the best thing, but I also understand that you guys want to stay safe, unless you guys do not, go back to the whole like online thing. But okay, so that just completely like erased half of my thing that I was going to talk about today. Let me just go. Okay, another thing I'd like to bring up, which is like teachers and how teachers are like not being informed as much as like we're all equally being informed. And I think like a lot of teachers are struggling. I don't speak for them, but I'd like for you guys to please appreciate them more and, like bring more appreciation towards them because of how hard their jobs have been lately. I think like that's another observation that I've seen that, I would like for the board to bring up and help the teachers with. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll write a formal like letter thing or email to you guys because, everything I had to say is basically just about last meeting and the results and consequences with like Facebook people and the board and what I discussed with my principal. And so, sounds good. Have a wonderful day, you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Steno, for your comments this evening. And we heard about enforcement, comment about inconsistencies of schedule and about communications to teachers is what we had just a hard time hearing you. So is that the gist of what you were speaking about this evening?
Yep, that's all. I'll
Okay.
just write the rest of it in an email. Thank you. Have a wonderful
Okay.
day.
Great. Thank you for joining us
Bye-bye.
and for your comments this evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Bonnie White.
The next caller that's in the meeting right now is Kristen Yurkovich.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Ms. Yurkovich. Thank you for joining this evening. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please share your comments with the board.
Great. Thank you to the board for allowing me to speak tonight. I appreciate your time. I'm a parent of two high school children, one at CV9 and one who's a senior at CVHS. While this year has been nothing close to normal, I do appreciate all the efforts made by the teachers and administration. However, with that being said, cases in our county and district continue to be on the rise quickly. As of today, there were 9,592 confirmed cases in our county, 2,399 alone in Clinton Township and Macomb Township, and our positivity rate over a 7-day period is now 15.8%, which is greater than or equal to what it was in December when our students and staff were home doing virtual school. While we continue to send our children to school each day, I know as a parent there is fear with rising numbers. While I follow the COVID updates for Chippewa, I want to bring the board's attention that it's currently not accurate due to the emails I've received today from the schools themselves. Today I was told there were 8 cases at CVHS and 2 in the 9th grade center. The report online shows 3 cases at CVHS and 1 at the 9th grade center. So the data needs to be reviewed and updated accurately so parents in the district have a full understanding. I am a parent who was contacted today and whose daughter is now in quarantine due to the fact of a potential exposure. But note, the exposure was 5 days ago. We would like to say that there's not spread in the building, and there are now cases that are linked together within the buildings. In fact, with the report, there were 6 cases linked from March 18th to date, and that's just going to continue to rise. From October to the end of January, roughly 4 months, there was only 120 cases in our district. The numbers in the district from January, when we went back to from hybrid, and until today, 170 cases in just 2 months. Of those 170, 129 are within the secondary levels and 96 within the high school levels alone. That's 56% of the cases out of the high school. For each positive case, that quarantines roughly 15 to 25 students in the secondary school. So if you do the math, we've quarantined roughly 1,440 to 2,400 students. That's insane and shows our kids are not back in the building safely. They're being pulled from their classes to be sent home to quarantine, and up until today, they had no access to watch their teachers teach live. If we were virtual or even hybrid, the numbers of kids affected would be greatly reduced. And remember, we haven't even gone back 5 days with masks off at lunch yet. Can you imagine what's going to happen if that happens? Our kids will be home in quarantine more than in the classroom. While it might be working better at the elementary level because students do not move around like the high schoolers, the secondary level is not working with everyone back in the buildings. Right now, while we are trying to do the right thing, there have been several instances where my ninth grader was taken to a computer lab where they were not distanced. She asked to be moved so she could sit by herself. In her biology class, she was asked to share supplies with students. I'm told in gym, they're rotating groups. How are you going to contact trace that? My son's weightlifting class, 60 students in the weight room, 2 classes combined. How is that safe? Chippewa needs to reel this back in and go back to hybrid for the remainder of the year, or better yet, virtual. It was working. The numbers were staying down. It was much safer for the staff, students, bus driver, office staff. It was safer for everyone. We're not there yet. To have this many students in a building at one time moving throughout like they do in middle school and high school, it's just unsafe. While we would all like to be there, unfortunately, as we've demonstrated, it just doesn't work. It will one day. We will get back there. But right now we can see by the cases and numbers, it's just too early. If we continue to move forward, our schools will be shutting down to the higher percentages in quarantine than in the classrooms, just like Utica schools had to do. Give these kids a sense of stability and return to hybrid or virtual for the remainder of the year. No more changing their schedules. No more full days, then half days, lunch one day, lunch not the next day. Just let them be. The poor kids and teachers have been through so much. The board needs to make the right decision for the health of our students and staff. This under control. Rein it back in. You tried. It's not working, at least at the secondary levels. The numbers in the counties and the schools prove that. Too much, too soon. It's time to get this under control, set a plan for hybrid or virtual, and finish out the year that way. These kids deserve to not wonder if the person who sat next to them, who's now missing, has COVID, as they're pulled from the classroom 3 or 4 days later, while they worry if they're going to get it or even if a family member is going to. It's not fair to them. While I appreciate the try, it was too fast. If you do not elect to go back to hybrid with the numbers, at least do not move forward with full days at secondary level and the removal of masks for lunch. This will cause our numbers and students in quarantine to skyrocket. Please make a motion to stop moving forward on April 19th and change the path. The decision to change the course is in your hands. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Yurkovich, for your comments this evening. Okay, Ms. Monia White.
The next community caller that's in the call is David Waldis.
Hello,
Hi,
Mr.
good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Waldis, we can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for joining us this evening. Please share your comments with the board.
Hi, yes. Thank you. I have to say, I did not purposely, and I don't remember the woman's name that just spoke, parent. She stole a lot of my thunder. And she was much more well-spoken than I was. I didn't write anything down. But I echo the exact same sentiments. Again, my name is Dave Waldis. I have a 10th grader at Chippewa Valley High School. I feel the same concerns. Again, she spoke very eloquently about, the data and going back too soon and not working for secondary. And that's the key. The things I wanted to talk about was, when I listened to the board meeting a few weeks ago and the decision was made, I didn't hear any specific information about why it was beneficial for high school students to go back. I heard general statements about, yeah, it's great for everybody to go back, but nothing specific about secondary. And my son is a 10th grader. I can't speak to elementary or middle school students, but at the secondary level, it's obviously failing. And this has been a failure. And the woman put it very nicely and said, you know, you gave it a shot. Well, I'm concerned because I believe that, or I'm concerned that the thought process behind allowing the high school students to go back essentially into a petri dish, all jammed together with no social distancing, you had to have known, the board had to have known that cases were going to come about. And therefore, if you knew cases were going to come about and then there was quarantining, then you had to have plans to accommodate for that. And you didn't. And now you have teachers that are having to deal with quarantine students and the students in the classroom. So now you have this situation, and now you have a large number of cases, large number of quarantined. And again, I can't speak to the numbers. The woman from me was very wonderful with the data. So I don't have to, I can just ride her coattails. But I echo the exact same feelings that at the secondary level, it has failed. And we need to go back to where we were so children can stop getting infected and quarantining can stop happening. And we can go back to an effective way that it's the lesser of the evils, so to speak, to where we were. Because the reality is it's not working at the secondary level the way maybe the board thought it was. Magically it was going to work, but it doesn't work. And the reality is a large part of the students adapted to the environment. Now I know I've emailed Mr. Disselrath a few times. He's been wonderful at emailing me back about situational things and how things are going and doing their best. And the piece he mentioned to me was, well, a lot of folks a lot of students have not adapted. They're failing or they're not doing as well with the remote learning environment. Okay, maybe those students should be in the classroom and focused in getting the education or the attention they need in that manner, and let the rest of the folks, of the students that were doing quite fine. My son was thriving. My son adapted, and he's been fine at in-home learning. There was no issue. He didn't want to go back. Like most of the students I thought I'd heard a few weeks ago, nobody wanted to go back. So, or the ones at least called into your meeting. So, in fact, I heard none that said they wanted to go back. So and I understand there's situations like the woodworking where there's certain things where there's remote or in person that's important. But the reality is again, the woman that spoke before me is we have a global pandemic, and the global pandemic isn't going away. It's not going away for a long time. So to pretend like we can put people back and it work or have it work isn't reality. And this 2-week period where the cases have spiked up to 30, 40, and the quarantining is out of control, and at Dakota as well as Chippewa, and we have other districts they're closing, it's reality. And it needs to be addressed at the secondary level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waldes, for joining us this evening and for your comments. Okay, Ms. Monia-White, do we have any other folks who'd like to address the board?
The next caller is Lisa Grayson.
Hi, Ms. Grayson.
Good evening.
Hi, we can hear you loud and clear. Please share your comments with the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Tonight, my comments come from the perspective of being first a taxpayer, second a parent of graduates from Chippewa Valley Schools in 2020, the first year of the pandemic, and 4 years prior in 2016. I was a working mother during the time that my children were in school. And I am now a substitute as I've retired from my career position and love to volunteer in the schools. My husband is also volunteering to retire or to be a substitute in the schools. And we love being there. And so I would like to share perhaps a different perspective from that of many parents and community speakers that I've heard in prior meetings. I am not for or against anyone, not parents, administration, board, teachers, or students. I'm really for everybody. I'm merely another reminder of these unprecedented times. Tonight, I want to address our latest challenge of streaming. This is in addition to the CVVA one-way delivery method. This is in addition to Schoology that has been in place for 7 months. In my time substituting, I have heard statements from the kids who you heard from saying they didn't want to be there, stating they felt it's unsafe. Some felt that they didn't want to come back because they only had 2 days of school before, and I'll address that in a moment. They liked that they could sleep. We're now in a situation where we have bona fide quarantine due to exposure. We have people that are electing to self-quarantine either because they were exposed outside of the schools, or they don't want to be in the school, or they're self-quarantining before they take a vacation, or they're taking a vacation, or they're quarantining after their vacation. And now we want to stream. We want to stream to address all of these quarantines and absences. The streaming is only going out from the classroom. We cannot require our students to turn on their cameras, but yet we're going to require the cameras to be on in the classroom. This does not hold the student accountable. The reality of the teacher's life today is tracking all of these absences, all of the reasons, midday departures, assignments, quizzes, tests, makeups, excuses, late submissions, zero participation. We have a 1-hour support period every day, and I have been assigned to a classroom nearly every day since in face-to-face learning has returned, and the highest number of people that have joined my support hour is 5. 5 out of 6 classes in which I typically have 30 students. Teachers are expected to provide continuous grace, all the while being chided across social media. We must be all things to all people, and it's just simply where we are right now. So for parents who continuously think that the teachers aren't teaching, what I ask the parents is to do what we did when we were parents of our students. We checked in with them. We asked what the expectations were. I can honestly say that if these were my kids today learning virtually, I'd be asking them, are you online? Why aren't you online? And what did you do today? With regard to teaching and comments made about how a student may be only in class 15 minutes, it is extremely rare for a student at a secondary level to receive a 60-minute lecture. It is more likely to receive perhaps a 20 or 30-minute lecture, and then for those kids to be expected to continue to do their work independently. So while they may have been dismissed from some of their virtual classes earlier than the bell might have rung in a physical classroom, it certainly did not mean that the teachers were delivering less education. We are all in this together. We all wanted them in the school. Well, they're in the school today, but that means different things to different people. 2 days off does not mean that we've lowered our expectations. We as adults need to set these expectations that whether the student is face-to-face or online, there is a learning expectation. It is a 3-legged stool: teacher, parent, and child. In conclusion, I just want to say that we will get through this year, but let's hope that we all, as in parents, students, admin, board, and teachers, have not established lower standards for ourselves or our kids, as they will remain our future. And little too much leniency is never good for anyone. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Grayson, for your comments this evening to the board. Okay, Ms. Bonnier-White, do we have any other folks who'd like to address the board this evening?
The last caller that has joined the meeting is Stephanie Jorgensen.
Hello, Ms. Jorgensen. Hello, Ms. Jorgensen.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Ms. Jorgensen. Thanks for joining us this evening. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please share your comments with the board.
Hi. First of all, I want to say I appreciate everybody's hard work. My brother is a school teacher. I'm sorry, I'm getting upset. And I know how hard it is right now for everybody that's involved in the school district. My brother is an art teacher in another district, and I know that going to these different forms of teaching has been quite a hard thing for him to do on a daily basis when it seems to change in every district quite frequently, and I don't believe that can be helped. So I just want to say I really appreciate the school board, the teachers, all of the administration. But I also, the topic that hasn't been brought up that I was having some questions about and wondering if would be addressed in the meeting tonight was the PSATs. My son is an 8th grader, and I have chosen to let him stay at home to do the streaming as far as his learning goes for this week. I'm anticipating that after the spring break cases will be higher, and I'm a little bit concerned with these PSATs that he's required to be in person for those. I'm just wondering if there's any plan of a delay or if the school board has anything to do with that. I don't know who plans that, but I don't think that I would like him to be back at school at that time. I'm a nurse. I know that I worked on a COVID unit the other night. The cases are increasing, and I just don't see that as being safe. So I was hoping that somebody would address that. And I also just wanted to say how much I appreciate everybody. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jorgensen. We appreciate you joining us and sharing your comments with us this evening. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Ms. Monier White, was that completion of our parents who wanted to speak this evening?
Yes, that is all of the community callers that joined the call today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to F, old business. We have none this evening. G, new business. G1, approve change order summary report, February 2021, Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approved the 2018 bond issue change order summary report for the month of February 2021.
We have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Aquino, supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale, please.
This work consists of changes to existing contracts for the purpose of owner requested work, deducts, code compliance, or hidden conditions on the construction and equipment projects. All amounts are within the contingency budget allocation. This report was reviewed with the Building and Site Subcommittee on Monday, March 15th, 2021, and funding will come from the 2018 Building and Site Fund.
Okay. Questions or comments by the board? Mr. Atkins is in attendance here this evening. We appreciate you coming out, Mr. Atkins. From Bart Mello. Questions or comments by the board?
I have a couple.
Ms. Aquino.
There's one item on the change order that talks about placing, we had some kindergarten swings that we've had some bigger, a little bit more costly items on here. So one of them is that. And when we went out there, we found that the current set was not within code. Is that correct, Mr.? Yeah, forgot your name.
Jeff, could you step on the podium there? That way the audience out there in virtual land can hear your comments.
Mm-hmm.
So currently you're grandfathered in right now, but obviously codes change, so things are safer for things. So we can't put a new set of seats on there until we change that. So what the recommendation to do, currently it's a 3-bay system, which means it has 6 seats. We would replace that with a 2-bay system going down to 4 seats. We reviewed that with the principal. She's very comfortable with that number. She feels by losing 2 seats, she's not really going to lose anything with the number of kindergarten she has. So that was something that Brian Smolnak with Wakely and ourselves all worked together on.
So, I mean, the code that we adhered to when we originally put it in was accurate. It's just that now the code has changed because obviously maybe there were some accidents or things.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like anything with playgrounds. I mean, I put swings that I was on gravel. I mean, things do change over time. We get smarter and better about these. So it probably was something that wasn't a problem until a kid got an accident and swung off the side of a swing onto a piece of concrete. So now there's a minimum distance you're required to have between a concrete and the swing sets.
One of the other items was that I wanted to ask about. So we put flooring in at Huron like several different times throughout different bonds, I guess. And so when it came to like putting some carpet in the lounge, we determined that we would have 3 different kinds of carpeting in, so it would look very unsightly. So is this something that we didn't know that we were going to have the 3 different, is that what it is? We planned for just a certain amount of replacement, and we ended up realizing that if we don't replace it as a whole area, that we would end up with 3 or 4 different carpets meeting up to each other in the school. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, our standard has been carpet lasts about 20 years. So the carpet in the original part of the building is past that 20-year life cycle, but the carpet in the addition that we built in 2003 isn't quite at 20 years.
Right.
So when we looked at this, we felt that it would make a lot of sense to replace it all at once, or else you would always have a mismatched carpet between the original building and the addition. So
Oh.
we have an opportunity to do it. That carpet in the 2003 addition doesn't have much life left
Right.
because it's in the corridor, so it does wear a little bit faster. So it's our opportunity to change that out. And actually, we're going to go partly carpet and partly with an LVT product, which will wear a lot better than carpet does in a corridor, especially because that's adjacent to the kindergarten or the playground area. It'll
Okay.
wear a lot better, so get a lot more longevity with it.
Right. The one other thing, the hinges, I don't remember exactly what did the hinges that were on these doors at district wide there. We changed the types of hinges because we can't lock them from a certain way or something. Was that a safety concern?
No, it's more of a longevity thing. Currently, most of your doors have 3 or 4 hinges on them. And unfortunately, high school kids, bigger kids, they put a lot of abuse on those doors, opening them, closing them hundreds of times a day. So what we found is by doing a continuous hinge or a piano hinge, the whole length of the door, those doors last a lot longer. We know people put wedges in the doors to prop them open, and it torques that door frame. That piano hinge holds it a lot better. So for just over $100 a door, it'll save a lot of work orders for the facility department and increase the longevity. So this will be our district standard moving forward. We're kind of catching up on this a little bit later. That's why we're doing it through a change order. But for the next several years in the bond issue, we'll have those continuous hinges built into the specifications.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your responses.
Other questions or comments by the board?
I have a couple.
Mr. Wojtovich.
Okay, so you're saying the play equipment, that the code was changed? That's why it's a change order?
Correct.
When was the code changed? Do you know?
I don't know that. I don't know, Brian, if you know.
Was it after the original bid?
Oh, yes. Yeah, this would be going back several years. That set of swings has been there for a long time.
Okay, but when was the code changed? When did the bid come in? Let's.
The bids would have come in roughly a year ago.
Okay, and when did the code change?
It would have been before that, I'm sure.
So why wasn't this caught on the original bid?
I don't know why it wouldn't have been caught in the original documents.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask about the carpet. Now, why is that not on the original bid? Who overlooked that?
Going back, our standard has been if the carpet's over 20 years, we included it with this bond program. So any carpet that wasn't 20 years old wasn't included in the overall bond program. So what we looked at is when we were doing the replacement there, we looked at the adjacent carpet and said we could stop here where we were in our original budget, or we could extend it a little bit further to include that carpet and replace it now in lieu of coming back in a future bond issue and replacing it then. So we felt because we were under budget on projects, this would be the time to do it and take care of it all at the same time. Originally, we had a lot of this carpet in the bond program back in the 2017 bond that didn't pass. But when we made a decision in the bond program to include a lot of the safety upgrades, what was put in the hole was a lot of the flooring upgrades in order to include all the safety upgrades.
So why wasn't this put on the original bid?
Because the carpet wasn't 20 years old yet.
But that was only a year ago, right?
The bids for this were awarded in December.
So not even a year.
Correct.
Only a few months. And we knew that the carpet wasn't going to be 20 years old. So who requested to upgrade the carpet too, or is that just something you figured?
I'm thinking when we met with the principal to look at color schemes.
Okay. And now the hinges. Who requested the changing of the hinges, or is that something that you just brought up, and why
No,
wasn't that on the original?
The
bid?
supervisor of maintenance for the district requested that.
Okay.
Based on looking at how many work orders he's had over the years. He's got one carpenter. It takes, he spends a lot of time repairing doors. So this was something he felt would reduce that and make it more of a manageable aspect to take care of these doors. So he'd like all new doors in the future to have the continuous hinge. A lot of the ones he's done repairs on through the years, he's added that continuous hinge, and he's found that that's been very advantageous. He doesn't have to repair those doors over and over again.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, and just for the record, Mr. Brian Smelnick from Wakely Associates is also in attendance and had made a comment this evening. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, if there's no other questions. All those in favor, signify by saying.
Mr. President, can I request a roll call vote?
Sure, we can do a roll call vote. Ms. Pyden, could you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Yes.
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 No.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to G2 award contract. Video storage equipment, SAN, Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education award a contract to AVI Systems Incorporated totaling $83,327.56 for the purchase and installation of a new video storage array, a SAN, and associated equipment.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, moved by Dr. Andriasco,
I'll support.
supported by Mr. Quino. Rationale, please.
This project will consist of the purchase and installation of a new video storage system, which will integrate with the existing video editing system, Avid, currently utilized in the Community Relations Department. The bid was reviewed and approved by the Technology Subcommittee on Monday, March 15th, 2021. Funding will come from the 2018 bond issue program for this purchase. This project is scheduled to start in the spring of 2021.
Okay, thank you. We have Mr. Tom Cucino from Metro Technologies here, along with his fine assistant. If there's any questions or comments from the board.
No.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to G3. G3, approve waiving MME testing requirements for graduation requirement for graduating class of 2021. Mr. Roberts.
Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education waive for the graduating class of 2021 the portion of the graduation requirement requiring participation in the Michigan Merit Examination as described in Board Policy 5460.
Have a motion, please. Moved by Ms. Pyden,
I'll support.
supported by Dr. Andriasco. Rationale, please.
Spring 2020 school day administration of SAT, ACT, work keys, and M-STEP was canceled due to COVID-19 in spring of 2020.
Questions or comments by the board? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion passes. Moving on to G4. Approve reduced physical education graduation requirement for 2021 and 2022 graduating class. Mr. Roberts.
Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education adjust graduation requirements for the classes of 2021 and 2022 by reducing the physical education requirement from 1 credit to 0.5 credit.
We have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Mixzak and supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale, please.
Chippewa Valley Schools' current graduation requirements for physical education exceed guidelines outlined by the Michigan Merit Curriculum, which allows graduation with 0.5 credit in physical education. This adjustment eliminates one potential barrier to qualifying for on-time graduation due to the disruption in education caused by COVID-19. And I would like to just make one comment. This is not reducing our standards. This is only to address a situation in which, due to COVID, students could not take these classes, but the bulk of our graduation requirements, the total number of credits required to graduate, all remain in place.
Okay. Questions or comments by the board? Ms. Pyden?
Discussed this last week in our curriculum committee meeting. And at that time, Mr. Kozlowski had provided us with a plethora of data that doing this, as well as our forthcoming motion, would actually align us with many of the districts in the area in terms of what their physical education and health requirements are.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Hearing no further, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion passes. G5, approve permanently reducing physical education graduation requirement. Mr. Roberts.
Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education permanently adjust graduation requirements by reducing the physical education requirement from 1 credit to 0.5 credit. This would apply to all Chippewa Valley students beginning with the class of 2022.
We have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco. Supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale, please.
Chippewa Valley Schools' current graduation requirements for physical education exceed guidelines outlined by the Michigan Merit Curriculum, which allows graduation with 0.5 credit in physical education. This change would create space in student schedules, allowing for greater choice in course selection, including options for additional higher-level physical education courses. High school administration and counselors support this revision to CVS graduation requirements.
Okay, questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. Okay, item G6. Approve second reading to adopt new Board of Education bylaw 155.5 terms of reference, Technology Committee, and new Board of Education bylaw 155.6 terms of reference, Operations Committee, and revision to bylaw 155.1 terms of reference, Building and Site Committee, and bylaw 155.3 terms of reference, Curriculum Committee. It is a recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the second reading to adopt the new Board of Education bylaws 155.5 terms of reference, Technology Committee, and new bylaw 155.6 terms of reference, Operations Committee, and to revise bylaw 155.1 terms of reference, Building and Site Committee, and bylaws 155.3 terms of reference, Curriculum Committee, and waive the reading of the bylaws. We have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Aquino.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vaitovich. These board policies need to be revised to reflect current Board of Education committees. Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, net by nay. Motion passes. Okay, excellent.
Is this now, this goes into our policies now?
Yes, that was the second reading.
Even though, does it have, do all 7 board members, I remember at one point, all 7 board members had to be voting. But that's not the case, as long as it has 2 readings, is that correct?
That's my belief. We can follow up with that.
Okay. Not that I want
case
to
we
wait,
need-
I'm just.
If we need to, if that's true, we'll bring back Mr. Sola as president.
Okay, thank you.
We will double check on that. Okay, H, Union Communications, do we have any union leadership with us this evening that'd like to address the board?
Ms. Levine is on the call today.
Hello, Ms. Levine.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, move on to administration reports. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Bednard. I have a few things this evening. First, I want to recognize Marilyn Pierce, who is retiring tonight in the proclamation was read for Marilyn. And I think it would be easy to overlook, but we should not, that her experience is 36 years as a hall monitor. I think she's been at Chippewa Valley that entire time, 36 years. So there are plenty of people who are sitting in this room who graduated from the school who Marilyn was there. And just think about that. There's the saying, if these walls could talk, she could do a book called If Marilyn Would Talk. If she kept notes, it'd be a good blog. But I just want to recognize Marilyn for that phenomenal accomplishment. I'd also like to recognize Sean Moffett, who is our district nurse. And we do have 2 additional nurses this year, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, who work exclusively on COVID. That was not the reason Sean Moffett was hired. She just takes care of our general nursing needs, which we always have. And she's now arranged for a vaccination event this Wednesday. And we have 120 staff members receiving their first dose of vaccination through Rite Aid, and it will take place here in this school district. So that will give us approximately 600 staff to be vaccinated through our school district, which is about 1/3 of our staff. So, and Sean was real key in a lot of that. And I think that's wonderful work on Sean's part. I would also like to recognize our staff this evening. I tend to do that at a lot of our meetings, but I think it's important to do so all the time. You know, change is stressful, and they've endured a lot of change this year. As I left my home this morning, I said to my wife, I said, the hard thing about this year is every single day I walk into school or to work, I'm not sure what I'll face. And that's difficult. We all like patterns in our life. We like to know what to expect. Now, in education or in any job, you're always going to have surprises, but the general framework for what you do is usually consistent. And that's not been this way this year. And that's hard. But that's no different for anyone else in this district than it is for me. It's no different for our bus drivers, our custodians, our people who work in our lunchrooms, our food service staff, our teachers, our building administrators. It is no different. It is hard. Our teachers now have been asked to change how they teach, the format of how they teach numerous times. And that needs to be recognized because that's hard work. As a former teacher myself, I know one of the keys when you start the school year is you establish patterns and routines. Because people like that. It brings order. It brings calm. And that's been real hard to achieve. And that's what a pandemic does to us. It just tears apart order. It's no different for our students. They face these same things. They want order in their life. They want to know when they get up and go to school or however they're receiving their education, it will be consistent. And this year, it has been impossible to provide that. And I know we'll get past that. I quite often say, we just need to put our heads down and move through. And that's what we're all trying to do. So I really appreciate everything our staff has done. We made a change recently And we went to a modified return to full face-to-face. And we have a schedule to return to full face-to-face on April 19th. So this evening, I'd like to share some data with you. And I've broken it down by elementary and middle school and high school together. So elementary and then secondary. So the data is broken into two segments. It's broken into the week of March 15th, which was when the first full week for everyone, to the following Monday, the 22nd. And then the second set of data is the 23rd through the 29th. And I wish that I could have nice forms for you this evening, but this data came in really late because it's difficult to assemble. So in the first week in our elementary schools, we had 25 total cases of COVID. And it ranged across our 12 schools of 0 to 8 cases. And across those 12 schools with 0 to 8 cases, we had anywhere from 2 to 13 students in quarantine, with coming to a total of 124 cases across our school district. In the second week, which would have been through today, across our 12 elementary schools, we had anywhere from 0 to 4 cases, with a total of 8. The 0 to 4 cases produced 1 to 20 quarantines across our district, for a total of 98 quarantines across our elementary schools. These students are in full classrooms and eat lunch in school. And our administration, again, someone who doesn't have pattern in their job, has done a pretty spectacular job to the best of their ability to socially distance kids in our elementary lunchrooms by creating new lunch spaces that kids eat at. And you can see that in any elementary you were to visit. So that's elementary. Here's middle and high school. Same 2-week period. We're talking now, the COVID cases at Mohegan have been minimal. So Mohegan's not in this data. They've had, I think, 1 case, and so they're doing fine. The first week in our middle schools and high schools, that's 6 buildings, we had anywhere from 4 to 23 cases, for a total of 50 across our district. Those 4 to 23 cases across 6 schools produced anywhere from 19 to 431 quarantines, for a total of 921 students in quarantine. In the second week, which concludes today, it was last Tuesday through today. In our 6 buildings, we had anywhere between 2 and 15 cases, for a total of 50 again. Across those 6 buildings, it was anywhere from 10 to 184 quarantines, for a total of 608 in quarantine right now. So from last week to this week, our quarantines are reduced. In some cases, it's still too high of a number, but it's reduced. Right now, in our quarantines, is less than 1% of our students are in quarantine across our district. Now, one of the methods that we worked towards that we thought would help resolve some of the stress in this situation, because no one wants to be quarantined, was live streaming. So fortunately, we were able to institute live streaming in all of our schools. K-12 looks a little different at the elementary level than middle and high school, but it's still a good, solid program. So I don't have figures right now on elementary, but as of today, it seems that, and we can't be exact because this data is so fresh, that over 1,100 students either are in quarantine or choosing to stay home and live stream, which is 13% of our high school and middle school total population. So 13% have said either they can't go to school or I would prefer not to. So that's 13% of our students are in live streaming. So taking our attendance from last Thursday to today, we had 900 kids return today. 4 schools have increased or improved attendance from last Thursday to today, with an improvement of anywhere from 5 to 10% of students being in. 2 schools' attendance went down from last Thursday today, with a decrease of either 3% or 10%. So that's kind of a big overview of where we are. And I think, as we know and we've learned along the way, none of this is perfect. But we think what we've created is a situation in which people have options. And that's what we've strived for. This path has been long and winding. And we've heard, we've said, we've read that mental health is really important. And mental health cuts both ways. It cuts from, I can't be in school, I need to be in school, I can't be at home, to, I want to be in school, but being in school makes me anxious. So what you're trying to do is to create this program that can really satisfy diverse needs. And none of it's perfect. Maybe we could coin a term. It's pandemically perfect, because this is about as close as we can get. So where does that bring us right now? We recognize that some of these numbers are higher than we would like. We have found during the course of this year, it's almost like when we go to move, something changes. Cases in the community have upticked. We know that. They may go the other way. They seem like they eventually do. So we create options for our students. You can choose to stay home and live stream. And right now we have a plan that allows them to access their teacher in the last hour of the day. Again, we would like them to be able to access them more, but none of this is perfect. For our students who are choosing to be in school, that's where they think they need to be. We've shortened their class periods. Again, that's not perfect. Everything's a compromise. So we're paying attention to these numbers. And we know that on April 19th, we're scheduled to be back full on. And we are paying attention to these numbers as it relates to that. Now, having said that, for anyone who might be listening, no decision has been made, nor have we sat down and said to each other, this is what we absolutely need to do. Because there is time right now, and we need to pay attention to what's going on with COVID before we make that decision. But we know that there are challenges regardless of what we do. So our goal in all of this is to provide the greatest number of students the greatest possible access to their education, knowing full well that there are parameters that conflict. And that's where we are on March 29th of 2021. Thank you. If you have questions, I'll do my best.
Anybody from the board would like to ask a question or comment? Mr. McZack?
Ron, so with what you're saying, our next meeting isn't until April 19th. So is there a possibility that we're going to be scheduling a meeting before then?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is certainly.
I
not-
don't mean you to I don't mean to predict the future, but I'm
Right.
just saying if you,
Well,
based on what's going on,
Yeah,
is it a
well,
possibility that we're,
I'll say this. That's a possibility.
Okay.
That we may have to come together and talk about the situation. Then again, maybe we'll see a decline in numbers and we won't need to have that conversation. But it's like the rest of this year. We have to be nimble. So if things don't seem like they're working as well as they should, we have to think about that next step. And I just because everyone has a different opinion on what we should do. Like we kind of understand where those opinions come from. And I just want to make it clear this evening, I don't want anyone listening to think that it's imminent that anything is going to change from our current plan. Nor is it carved in stone that next step of that plan will occur. We are where we are, and we will make the best decision if it needs to be different than what is scheduled right now before April 19th. Did that answer the question? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. Other questions, comments by the board?
I do.
Mr. Wojtovich?
Mr. Roberts, how many deaths have we had in the districts due to COVID?
In our school district,
Yes,
we've had none that I'm aware of.
that's what I thought. How many hospitalizations do you know recently?
I don't know the number on hospitalizations. I only know in a general sense of what I'm hearing in the media that those types of things are increasing, and they're increasing with younger people. And I don't mean school age kids. I mean adults less than senior age because seniors are vaccinated. That's kind of what I hear, but I could not.
Are you hearing this from confirmed sources, information, or just hearing it from people?
Well, the last time I heard that was last Wednesday at our meeting with the Macomb County Health Department from the, that would have been from the medical director of Macomb County Health Department.
Do they have data to support that?
Well, the conversation didn't really come to us asking that person to provide data, but I know that they collect data from the hospitals on a continuous basis.
Why didn't we ask? I guess that seems like it's an important piece of data there.
Well, at that point, that data at that time was not important to me as a superintendent in the decision I would be faced with our students.
I guess I'm getting back to the numbers we have from quarantine and the numbers you've just read off. Going back to what all the experts are saying, those seem like pretty good numbers. So where is our concern here?
Well, I think if our numbers grow, if our numbers hold steady, I'm okay. If our numbers grow and we never quite know what's going to happen, that would give me pause for concern. If our numbers grow, if we start seeing significant spread among students, that would give me concern.
But right now you think we're doing pretty good according to all the recommendations for the experts and everything.
Well, from an operational standpoint, last week was hard. Because of just the process we're involved in to carry this all out. It was a difficult week. And it's really for those people who with boots on the ground in the buildings who are quarantining kids. And it's stressful for our students to think they might be quarantined. And I think that that's one of the strengths of our latest plan is to give that live stream option. So we have some really good things in place that will help us. But I just think we need to be aware of what's going on in our buildings and continually assess.
But our data is showing that from the quarantined students, we're getting little, if no, positive cases that we know of.
Well, we think we have a few there. We don't think that's a perfect track record as we were before. But
Okay,
sometimes those are a little bit harder to figure out, but we could have some cases. And so I think what worries us is that next level of serving lunch and all that goes with that, because when we serve lunch, that will also increase quarantines because of, kids will sit at the same seat they sit at on a daily basis. The high schools have been great about putting together a plan to ensure that happens and to help with contact tracing. But it could, it could significantly increase our quarantines. So these are all the things we think about operationally. And as I think I laid out a measured overview of where we are, and while not indicating that we think one direction or the other is the best right now, it's more of a case of just paying attention and kind of judging the situation as we go along, and things change or don't change or change for the better. That's happened this year too. That we expect, here's an example. We expected to have an increase in numbers after Thanksgiving and Christmas. That really didn't happen. And why? I think because our if I don't know, I've talked about this before, but if you just, this is kind of an empirical kind of observation, that people tended not to gather. And so then those numbers they went down all through January. We got our kids back in. This is great. Let's plan to open up more. And all of a sudden the cases rise. So we're kind of at the fickle nature of a pandemic. So we're always paying attention. I don't think as administrators, we can ever stop and say, I know enough. I know what's going to happen. We're good.
But again, just to clarify, I guess quarantine simply means that you are around somebody or assumed to be around somebody that is tested positive. Is that correct?
Well, they have tested positive.
So we're only all the people that are in quarantine are students that are tested positive.
And anyone that's around them.
Well, that's what I said. So quarantine pretty much, okay, so you're adding in where they are tested positive. Do we know what percentage of the quarantine students have been tested positive?
Well, that would take a whole lot of data digging, which I not prepared to have that tonight. Plus, it's a little bit of an inexact science in determining exactly where that student became positive. But if a student is within the quarantine distance to another one and becomes positive, one potential place they got it was from that student in that classroom.
But I believe you it might have been the last meeting or something. You said that out of the students that are being quarantined due to just being around somebody that's been tested positive, we're not seeing any cases or at least
Well,
very little?
Yeah, we believe we have some connections this time, which we didn't have before.
Do we have data to support that?
Well, I don't have that data with me, but I know that in conversations with our nurses, they're starting to see a few cases, not a lot. We think schools are safe right now, but there are some connections in some cases that we think it could be from other students. And I will say that this might be the perfect time to throw this in there because this is a source of much confusion. The CDC came out and said that in schools, because of the low spread, a reasonable distance to keep kids apart as a guideline was moved from 6 to 3 feet. Even though that is considered by the CDC to be a safe distance to be away from a person who is positive, it doesn't apply to a quarantine. The quarantine distance remained at 6 feet. So that seems a little bit ironic. It's safe to be within 3 feet, but if we're going to quarantine, and I think I'm not knocking them, I'm in no position to knock the CDC. I just think that's just being cautious. And I guess that's the stance they want to take. So I just say that now because sometimes people think that our quarantines should be a smaller amount of students than must be quarantined. And it isn't. And those are the guidelines we have to follow. And I will say for our community members who might be listening, our nurses are phenomenal. They make decisions based on what they should make decisions, and that helps to keep our student population safe. It's not a matter of, well, that student, well, maybe they weren't really that close, we'll just not quarantine them. No, it's nothing like that. And some people might be critical of that, but it is a way to keep our numbers in our building lower and to protect students.
Well, I'm going to have to ask then that we try and look into getting the data supporting out of the students quarantined just because they were around a student, what percentage ended up being tested positive? And also the ones tested positive, what percentage ended up being hospitalized? These seem like very important issues here that we should be looking at. And as I've said before, not just the testing positive part. But I have to request that we do some research on getting that data that I just said.
I guess.
Okay,
Can I
yeah,
say
let me just intercede here just for a second. Mr. Vojtovich is asking for specific data for the Board of Education. I just got to make sure there's 4 board members that are interested in obtaining that data. I don't know if that data is easily gotten, for lack of better words, either. Again, Mr. Roberts had stated that it's unsure where they concocted the COVID from. It could have been the grocery store, could have been the gymnasium, could have been the karate classes, could have been in first hour. So I don't know if that data is easily obtained at this point.
But
If
I
it
didn't
is,
ask
not a
where they
problem,
got it
but
from.
I got to make sure we have board support because the board has to request this data from the administration.
Not just one board.
So we ask for anybody that would be interested as a board member to get this data from Mr. Roberts to obtain this data. Is there 4 board members who agree? Why don't we do a motion, Mr. Pino? We just do a roll call.
We don't have to do either. Just 3 other people need to speak up. It's not a motion. It's not a formal, it's a discussion, but we do want to know that 4 people want that
Yeah,
data.
Do we have a bylaw or something that says that 4 people have to agree?
Yes, because this board asking for information from the administration. So it has to be something that the entire board, majority of the board is wanting. It's
Can
just
somebody point me to that?
okay. And we'd be happy to.
Okay.
Mr. Vojtovich, I apologize with all due respect. Didn't you take the first 9 classes of the MASB classes?
Yes.
Well, that is one of the things that they talk about, and that a board speaks with one voice. Unfortunately, one of us is not the voice for the entire board. Therefore, that is why we have that policy that 4 people have to agree. Otherwise, our staff is going to be running here and there and everywhere requesting information for each individual board member. Our staff's already worked hard enough. I have trust in them. I know that we've had 9 linked cases since March 15th, according to our website. And I know that you're mostly concerned about deaths and hospitalizations, and I understand that, but there's a lot of parents and community members that are concerned and afraid and anxious. So I'm not saying that you're incorrect in wanting the data, but I'm not going to, personally, I will not support putting our staff through some more hoops to get that data. I trust that they'll make the right decision.
Okay, but this is the information we should be basing it on instead of promoting the testing positive or the quarantines. Quarantines aren't even tested positive. It's just simply quarantining. And this is why are we even using this as legitimate data to make decisions on opening our schools? Again, I have to request, if this is a policy or a law or whatever you're saying, somebody's going to have to get this to me and show me to it. I'm just requesting data that we should already have. I would assume that this is data that's being used to keep the schools open or keep the schools closed, either one.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay. And that's certainly something that's important to you in your opinion as a single board member. But Ms. Dr. Andriasco.
Really quick, Mr. Bednard and Mr. Roberts, could we request that everyone in the auditorium wear their mask at all times, please?
Properly.
Properly, thank you.
It is an order from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that in these meetings, I can't see out here, but
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
it is required that we wear masks here.
Okay.
Within 3 or 6 feet? What is the, can somebody show me that policy?
There's.
I can show you that. I don't have it with me now, but I can show you what the order is from MDHSS.
Okay, so I'll get back on point then. Board members, other comments regarding this request for information? Hear from anybody else?
I just have one, and it does not directly go to Mr. Wojtovich's point, but we are a community organization and need to set the example for the community. While we may or may not have students who are hospitalized and have passed away, we have had families and community members who have passed away, including one very recently, and have been hospitalized. And whether or not they can be traced back to our school, we'll never know where someone picks up this virus. But we do know that we have a responsibility to stop the spread and to follow our health department and CDC guidelines as they are written, whether or not we may or may not agree with them. That is our responsibility as a community organization.
In response, sure. The guidelines are simply that they're guidelines. They aren't laws, they aren't rules. They keep on changing, and we are a representative of the community we were voted in with. We aren't here to spread false narratives, fear, whatever. We are here to look at the data and judge by that. If we want to say, well, we've had families that have suffered, okay, well, I understand that and I feel for them. But that shouldn't, the data is what we need to look at to keep our schools in whatever situation we choose. Otherwise, just to be consistent, again, every year, we are going to have to vote to close our schools down for the flu season, because I have known people that have suffered dearly and have lost family members due to the flu. So does that mean that we have to close our schools down yearly due to the flu season?
Ms. Quino?
Going back to what Robert talking about. a little bit. So, Mr. Roberts, I wrote some things down, but I don't know if I wrote them correctly. As of Thursday, we said something about that we have 900 students. As of today.
Is your microphone on? I just so that others hear your question.
I think what you said was since Thursday, we have 900 students. Is that students that are both quarantined and or chosen not to come to school for 13% of our student population? Is
Well, we have 900 students returned today from quarantine.
Okay,
That was
900.
where 900 came in.
Oh, okay.
We still have across our middle and high schools, 600, just over 600 students in quarantine.
Okay. All right, so total today, like in our district, what percentage of students were present in person? Do we have, is that,
Well, I have numbers, but that's not one that I
Okay.
worked out. We have,
that's all right. I might be the only one that wants to
yeah,
know
see,
that.
we have students who are absent and just excused or unexcused in the traditional way.
Uh-huh,
And then we have students who are home. As I said, one thing I did say to you, a little data point, was that about 13% of our secondary students are live streaming.
oh, okay, 13% are live.
And
streaming.
some of them are quarantined and some of them are just choosing to do that.
Okay, thank you. I don't need any further data. I just had made a notation and I wasn't sure that 13% where it came from. Okay.
Questions, comments by the board?
I have a comment.
Dr. Andriasco?
Mr. Roberts, I'm glad to hear the data that you did give us this evening. And to me, the data is really concerning, especially with the idea of that after April 19th, we're going to have lunch with no masks on. However, I'm really pleased to hear that you're open to the idea that between now and the next board meeting, that maybe we would meet again. And I'm also glad that you bring up about mental health. I think that's a really important topic, and I'm glad to hear that that's something you and the administration are thinking about daily. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Other questions by the board, comments? Okay, couple things, yeah. Ms. Vojtovich, I will direct those bylaws to you regarding acting as one to the administration. We're not individuals, but I will share those
Well,
with you.
acting as one to get data, not acting as one. I understand that we are a full board and we don't act individually on major decisions, but as far as just getting data, we have to, that's what I'm looking for. So not just acting as one, that would be a useless
We're not voting.
bylaw.
I guess I said, I don't know if that data is available and these folks are so darn busy trying to run these schools right now. I don't, at least in my opinion, as a single board member, I really don't want them having to search high and low for this data at this point. They've made, in my opinion, they've made the right decision so far, and I trust what they will recommend to the school board from here out. And therefore, I'm not interested in having them attain that. I'm just a single person here. If there's 3 other board members that would like to order, the administration to, somehow find this data and bring it to us, then that's the way it works as a board. But I'm not interested at this point. If I heard other board members speak up, I'd be happy to, direct them. But at this point, I will provide those bylaws to you that explain that.
Mr. Bednar, one question. So, just let me can I address a question to Mr. Vojtovich?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Vojtovich, the data that you're requesting or wanting, and I understand that's fine. Data is how we should make our decisions. Also, input from our staff in how things are going, input from our staff on what their mental health is. Also, but I wondered, okay, so the data you're requesting is what data? How many kids that were quarantined have ended up with COVID? Is that the data point you're asking for?
Well, I guess I'm asking for data that I just assumed was already being used to make the decisions. It seems like pretty important data.
Well,
But
what
I'm
data
looking for
was that?
data as
'Cause I
far
didn't
as,
hear it. I probably didn't quite understand.
well, we
which
keep on
data.
hearing about quarantine. Well, quarantine just means that you were around somebody or you were tested positive. The tested positive, okay, that might be a difference there, but just being around somebody is what's bringing the numbers up. So what I'm looking for is, okay, how many of those kids, now last meeting, I believed it was already mentioned that we really had no students that were in quarantine from being around other students, little or no, that
Within the
tested
school, you
positive.
mean, within the school,
Within
not
the
from
schools. I'm not
outside.
looking for the country. I'm not looking for the county. And I'm just looking for data that I believe everybody should be looking at. I'm looking to find out, where this has progressed as far as what we should be concerned about. Everybody keeps on talking about we have so many students quarantined. Okay, what does that mean? That doesn't really mean a whole lot. I'm told that every year we have millions of people that test positive for the flu. And yes, the flu is very serious. People don't realize the only reason we have control of it is because of medications. Otherwise, it's a very deadly virus also. But people test positive for the flu, that it never gets serious. So if we said so many people get tested positive for the flu every year, we'd be shutting all the schools down and everything. And that's all I'm getting at, is this is data I just assumed we would already have.
How come you don't have your mask on, Mr. Butler?
Oh, I do. I'm 6 feet apart. I'm 6 feet apart. Well, I'm 6 feet apart. I mean,
Mr. Wojtovich, come on. Have respect for the rest of us if you don't.
I
care for
have
yourself.
respect, but you have to understand that it's suffocating me as I'm talking. Now, how can I breathe and talk at the same time? I've had it. I've had the antibodies, so I'm all good. So don't worry about that. Are we going to be talking about masks? Are we going to? I'm just asking for some
No, I
simple
just
data. I don't
happened to look
understand why
over
this
and
is a
noticed you didn't
problem.
have it on. and
I
that-
don't understand why this is a problem. I'm asking for some simple data, and everybody's throwing it all out into a big issue.
No, I just said I would like some specific, you had mentioned data. What data? Why don't you document the data you're asking for and send it to somebody? Because I don't really know what you're looking for. Is
If
how
that's
many
what it takes, I
cases
will. I'll ask
occur?
for the specific data.
I guess that's fair.
Right.
And I think the board might agree if you were able to send that to me.
Well, I'll just send
and
it to
Mr.
Ron.
Roberts.
I'll just send it to you and Ron.
Yep, thank you. And
Um,
maybe Mr. Roberts can follow up where it's something simple. He can talk to the school nurse and obtain maybe something like that for you.
Which
If
is
it's simple,
depending
I don't
on what
want
it is he
to have him
wants.
do
Well, we
research.
keep on bringing up the health department. Why don't we refer to the health department, not just opinions?
Okay, well, if you'd send me that email and or copy me and send it to Ron. and
I
if-
will.
If there's an easy response, we'll
I
get
will.
that for you for sure. Okay, unless other board members have objection to that. Okay. Okay, that ends that. Okay. Anything further? Okay, and then I'm sorry, Bob, could you just pull that mask up? You're done now talking? So we
Yes.
can get Dr. Andriasko back up here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess just to summarize on where we're at, outside that data issue. As we are standing here right now, we are scheduled, as Mr. Roberts said, to go back into full traditional model April 19th. That was what we voted on when we voted last time to go back to full traditional. But as Mr. Roberts mentioned, there's been a lot of concerns with our numbers, although they're going lower from week to week right now. But as he said, that could change. So at this point, we are scheduled to go full traditional April 19th, but our administration will monitor the numbers overall from the county, numbers in our schools, quarantine, so on. And if our administration were to feel that a change in that plan needed to happen, we would be contacted and then move from there. So just to summarize, Mr. Roberts, is that where what you had
Yep.
said in
Yep.
summary?
Thank you very much. That's clear.
Okay. All right. Anything else for administration or curriculum?
No, that's it tonight. Thank you.
Okay, up and by the board.
I have something.
Okay, Mr. Wojtovich.
I was notified again that we yet again we negotiated with the union to come to another letter of understanding. Now, I don't know about the other board members, but I had no knowledge of this until we were notified that it was negotiated and put together. The union had to vote on it. Yet it doesn't seem like we have to vote on it. We still, again, as I said before, we negotiated with the union, but we didn't seem to have the same courtesy to negotiate with our parents or whatever. I just have to ask, I mean, was this thing negotiated within the perimeters set?
We were attempting to do live stream. Was there a
Okay,
formal
perimeter
vote?
set, it was a letter of understanding. I mean, I'll answer what I can, Mr. Roberts. Bob, I don't know if you'd rather have me address it or Mr. Roberts.
Whoever can.
There was no voting by the.
There was no
union.
vote on this. This was a letter of understanding that was signed off between the district and MEA to provide this live streaming. And I'd indicated to you also, as we had corresponded during the week, that this was something that was long sought after by the board. And it directed the administration to get it done, to get this into our classrooms. And we had started back last fall, these negotiations with our teachers to do this. And they had met several times through since last fall to get this done, but we're not able to come to an agreement for a letter of understanding. Board was fully aware of this. Board supported it. I know that you just came out in January, but I think, as I said in my correspondence, even you had said you were in support of streaming classrooms. So this whole board has supported that. When they decided to meet, I guess it was Wednesday or Tuesday morning, I can't remember now, to negotiate just once again, they did come to an agreement. So they signed a letter of understanding. There was no vote required by the board to do this.
Why was there no vote required?
Because it was not a change in the contract. It was a letter of understanding. It wasn't a change in their teaching instructional.
But there was considerable compensation. It was a change of rules. I don't understand how this was not something that the board had to vote on. And you said that it was, I can't remember the exact word you said, but you said it was recommended by the board. I don't remember recommending negotiations. And when were the perimeters set for negotiations?
Our directions to the superintendent was to obtain virtual classrooms in Chippewa Valley schools. And our also was said that what resources he needed reasonably, he was able to use. So that's what he did.
When was this set?
This was set last fall when we first started talking about streaming classrooms.
It's my understanding that we have to set perimeters each situation, each case.
But I don't think we've never had to set parameters. I don't know if what you know that we don't all know, but we've never had to set formal parameters unless we're going into a new negotiation for a new contract. In the letter of understanding, the desire for live streaming has been talked about publicly, talked about by us, that it would make things a lot better for the students to have access, because whether or not those cases end up being more positives, we still wanted, at least I've talked about it publicly, maybe, I think a lot of us have said that we thought live streaming, or we may have sent a message to the superintendent individually, which we are allowed to do. And it's not ordering him to do something. It's just saying, like we all think that live streaming is important. The community has been crying out for live streaming since the beginning of the school year. And if we had an opportunity to, I don't think it was under any big secret kind of negotiation. I think that most of us think live streaming is something that we need for our students to have choices. So, but we don't normally do parameters for letters of understanding on our contracts that I've ever seen since I've been around, and that it's been a long time. So I don't know, what are you trying to imply, or what's the point of this? That you don't think we should have live streaming? You think
I'm
that's a
just
bad
trying to imply
idea?
that, make sure that we follow the rules.
What's the rules?
I guess, well, to set perimeters, 2 years ago, whatever. We can see what happens when you don't, the situation in Utica School District. They had a big situation because they didn't follow the rules. I guess all I'm saying is that it seems like we didn't set any perimeters. It was a negotiation. It did have compensation. The union did seem to feel the need to vote on it, but yet we didn't. I would recommend that the board seeks legal counsel just to make sure that everything is okay there and we didn't break any rules or laws.
Can I just ask a question?
Squeal.
Did the union, the membership of the entire union have to vote on the letter of understanding, Mr. Dr. Blanchard?
All of that to tell you no. The general membership of the association did vote on the letter of understanding.
Okay. So there was no vote by the union, Mr. Vojtovich.
Well, actually, there was. The representatives, which we did. I am not recommending that when we negotiate with the public that we get every one of our citizens in here to vote. We would vote for them. Otherwise, if everyone has to vote, then we're breaking the rules every time we vote. That's kind of ridiculous and it's insulting. But yes, the union did vote. Their representatives took a vote. At least that's what I'm told. And a letter of understanding does change the contract. It is contractual. There is perimeters that should be set. It just seems like a lot of things were on the edge here and that we should seek legal counsel to make sure we're in the right.
Just a point of clarity. As we enter into negotiations for the collective bargaining agreements, when they expire, the negotiation team for the district at that point meets with the Board of Education in executive session to discuss parameters. That is correct. That is a negotiation strategy that has been in place in the district for a while. There's not board policy that indicates such, but that is a negotiation approach that we utilize here in the district. When going forward with the letter of agreement or letter of understanding, we do not go forward to the board with parameters.
He wanted to stay away from that.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay. All right.
Any further on this matter?
Okay.
Okay, anything else from open by the board?
I just want to say that I said something last week, and if anything, I think it's gotten more hectic this week. In an effort of transparency from me, I do happen to have a child that works in the school district in an administrative role. And the amount of work for quarantining and what the staff, I mean, that's why I guess I'm not as anxious to get data, because I've heard, because my daughter is quarantined at my house, what kind of reactions the parents have to receiving the quarantine call, and they get very upset. And I know it's not important that we understand that quarantining is not a big deal because now we have streamlined, but it is a big deal to people that are worried about it. And most of the parents that I've overheard talking are very concerned about it. So, I mean, I guess we have to have some sensitivity to not just the connected data, but also to how our community views us. I know there's a lot of our community that wanted to go in person, and now they have that choice. There are people that are afraid to have their kids in school. Now they have that choice. There's also parents that, want to go hybrid, they can choose to send their kid hybrid. I mean, it's up to them. Where I do have concerns about lunch starting, but we will certainly see where that takes us. And the important thing is that we continue to do what we think is best for the students in our district. That's just my opinion. And for our staff who has worked very, very hard this year and not received any appreciation from anyone. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, anything further from the board?
I would like to echo what Ms. Aquino had said about our staff, students, and family just working really hard. And so with our upcoming break, I hope that everyone has a very safe break, that they have an opportunity to, celebrate Passover, Easter, Ramadan, whatever they may choose, and have a moment to kind of reflect on where we've been and where we need to go. But above all else, please stay safe and please watch out for your neighbors and your community.
Yeah, thank you. Anything further? Okay, hearing nothing further. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
I'll support.
supported by Ms. Pyden. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 8:42. Thank you, everybody.